And thank you very much for joining us on PM Express once again. It has been the biggest subject in the last 5 months, since November, December, all the way to March. It's dominated the headlines, and then it disappeared for a while. We all thought, when was he going to come? And then he came. It's the E-levy. It has been passed. The president has assented to it. It is now law. Finance Minister says it possibly may be implemented at the beginning of May. But the man who made it happen is my guest tonight. He is the Majority Leader and Minister for Parliamentary Affairs. He is Osechi Mensah-Bonsu, and is my guest here on PM Express. Thank you very much, Mr. Osechi Mensah-Bonsu, for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Congratulations are in order.
Well, appreciated.
So how did you manage to do it when we all least expected? I mean, I know you are a good Christian, and so they say sometimes when you least expect, that's when the trumpet will blow. Many of us were caught by surprise. We were expecting to simply wake up in the morning of Tuesday and wear our jerseys and wait for the Black Stars. And then E-levy showed up. How did you manage that?
Well, as you do know, admittedly, we've been struggling with this since December last year. We've been having some conversations amongst us, that is between the majority and minority caucuses, the leadership. We've been having some discussions, and unfortunately, the discussions broke down. They did break down because of various demands. Remember, two major issues that were raised by the minority at the time related, one, to the policy itself, whether or not it was necessary, and second, the rate that was being proposed by the minister. Some of us, when we came to dealing with it, really were surprised at the position that the minority had taken, that they were opposed to it, and that they had zero tolerance for it. My own understanding of parliamentary practice is that we had crossed some 3 rivers. First, we had approved of the budget statement and economic policy, which contained proposals to introduce the E-levy. So when we approved of the budget statement and economic policy, in essence, we had agreed to the broad policy underpinning the E-levy. That is first. The E-levy, a tax, was proposed to bring in revenue into the consolidated fund. In anticipation of that, government had factored those anticipated revenues into the consolidated fund and made allocations to the various ministries, departments, and agencies, that is the sectoral allocations, and they had made the allocations to other constitutional and statutory bodies, including Parliament, the judiciary, the Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice, Constitutional Creatures, Electoral Commission, NCCE, Media Commission, and so on and so forth. And when we interrogated these estimates made to the various sectors, and the various committees submitted their reports, Parliament, through the various committees, approved of all of them in the full knowledge that these anticipated revenues had been factored into the allocations to the various sectors. So that was the second stage. The third stage was the conglomeration of all these sectoral allocations into the appropriations bill. I remember when we came to dealing with the appropriations bill, that day, after the referral to the Finance Committee, and the consideration and report by the committee, when the committee came to report on it to plenary, and the chairman of the committee submitted a report, in seconding the motion for the adoption of the report, the ranking member indicated to us that there was total unanimity on the approval of the appropriations bill, and so there shouldn't be any other contributors. And lo and behold, I spoke to concur with what the ranking member had said, so there were no other contributors, and we adopted the report from the Finance Committee on the appropriations bill unanimously, knowing fully well that all these contained expected revenue yields from the E-levy. Now, because the E-levy is a new tax, it must be predicated on a new legal regime. So a new law then comes to be introduced. And when a new law comes to be introduced, us who have approved of these three things, the approval of the budget first, the second, the estimates for the sectors, that's the revenue and expenditure for all the sectors, including, as I've said, the constitutional and statutory bodies, and the appropriations bill, then people make a U-turn to say that we will not support the bill. We will not support the law which would really put the E-levy in place in order to yield the dividends that we have already approved of. What do you make of it? Is it the case that people didn't understand what they were doing in the approval of the budget, in the adoption of the reports from the various committees supporting the yields from the E-levy, and finally the appropriations bill? Is it the case that people didn't understand what they were doing? So I was worried what Parliament or some members of Parliament were doing. So then we went into the issue, and then matters were raised about the rate, because at the Finance Committee, I remember that when we came to dealing with the policy and colleagues said they would not support it, I asked them, send them through these processes. Do you understand what you have done? And then it will mean that the budget, like you intended to do,
because they rejected the budget
at the very outset, when you said that you are rejecting the budget, when you say that you don't want it at this stage, then we want to send us backwards to say that we should go then and rescind all the decisions that we have made in respect of all the sectoral estimates that we had approved, including the appropriations bill. So I thought, really, people didn't really appreciate where we were.
But there was a significant quiet on the E-levy front for a while, and you explained then that it was for broader consultations. The finance minister was doing consultations across the country,
absolutely,
etc. And nobody was sure when it was going to be resurrected on the floor. The speaker on Tuesday said, whilst he was seated, that you surprised him. He didn't know himself. We've all wondered how the speaker didn't know until the morning, I believe, of Tuesday.
I'm not too sure you understood the speaker well.
What did he mean then?
The anticipation was that we will deal with it on Monday.
But Monday was no parliamentary sitting.
Monday was no parliamentary sitting. In fact, I had traveled out. The minority leader and I had traveled out when the business committee met last week, Thursday. We were not in this jurisdiction. But I had told my colleague, my deputy, that if he went to chair the meeting,
the business committee meeting,
the business committee meeting, he should propose to them that Parliament would sit on Monday, and then we'll get the E-levy out of the way, and then the president would come initially. The intention was for the president to come and deliver the message on the State of the Nation
On Wednesday?
on Tuesday.
On Tuesday, okay.
Not Wednesday.
Okay.
But I felt that given the amendments that had been filed, perhaps we're going to work late into the day and perhaps even continue the following day. Which is why I said to the president, I suggested to him that let's not do his own presentation on Tuesday, but do it on Wednesday, so that if there was any spillover, we could do it on Tuesday. And then we clear the way for him to present the State of the Nation, the message on the State of the Nation, the following day, Wednesday. And the president agreed. We had some discussions with the speaker. So the speaker, upon his return, knew that we're going to really have this, the presentation, the E-levy discussions on Monday.
Okay.
Unknown to us, when they went to the meeting, they said they were not going to have any sitting on Monday.
So there was a disagreement on the Monday sitting?
On the Monday sitting.
Okay.
So I said to them that in that case, let them stick to Tuesday.
With the knowledge that E-levy was going to come?
With the knowledge that E-levy would come on Tuesday.
And so this was disclosed, and the speaker knew? And the minority side also knew?
I told you that the speaker knew that it was going to come on Monday.
Okay.
But then it went to Tuesday.
So the assumption is that if it didn't happen on Monday, then it will happen on Tuesday. Yes. So you should have known then that. So when he said he was surprised, what was he surprised about?
Well, that's why I'm saying that I don't really.
Because you remember he said that when he was in the chair, that when you surprised the speaker.
Did he mention me?
No, well, he was talking generally.
Yes. So perhaps he meant some other thing.
Well, apart from him, your colleagues on the minority side also said this was smuggled in.
How was it smuggled in? First of all, they had a meeting last Thursday, as I've indicated to you. And they said to them that bills may be considered.
But you didn't specify E-levy.
The E-levy is a bill.
I get that. But yes, when you said bills are going to be taken, you didn't specify that E-levy was going to be taken.
Bills would be considered.
I see you licking your lips there. You exploited the loophole.
No, bills may be considered. The E-levy is not even a new bill to be introduced. It has already been introduced.
Yes.
It's within Parliament.
True.
For consideration
but,
and approval.
But was there specification what bills will be coming?
Do we need to do that?
Isn't that the practice? Isn't that a tradition in the House?
Sometimes we do, but this is a bill under a certificate of agency.
I mean, put it to you, you strategically left the specificity out.
I'm saying to you that bills that come under a certificate of agency may be taken even within one day. In this particular case, we couldn't take it within one day, but it suggested to you that it was ripe for harvest anytime.
That is true.
Thank you.
So you took good advantage of that on Tuesday.
Well, we the minority knew that it was going to come.
No, but you just said that you didn't specify, so they would have known only on the morning.
Well, member of parliament, you are supposed to be alert, and you have your radar on to detect whatever.
Did they detect you in time?
The minority leader, when he stood up that day, said he was going to surprise me. Okay. Right? So, surprise is part of the game. Except in this case, there was no surprise. They knew ahead of time.
Oh, so they knew E-levy was coming?
They knew.
So
the day before they advertised on their platform that they were going to meet the day of the E-levy. That was the Tuesday at 8:30.
But you're not on their platform. How did you know that?
Oh, they tell us that they have intelligence within our fold. We have counterintelligence within their fold as well.
So this is what was at play. This was about whose strategy won the day. Obviously, yours won the day. But it was about numbers too. How did you know they wouldn't have all their numbers on Tuesday?
Well, I've told you that they foray into our backyard to observe what is going on. We do the same.
I must confess, I did an interview with Muntaka Mubarak, who confirmed that he had moles. In fact, the words used moles in your ranks. And this was on PM Express. All my audience would have watched it. You are saying that if they did have moles, you had moles too.
They have intelligence. We have counterintelligence.
So how did you know they won't have all the numbers on Tuesday?
Well, We knew who was at where. We knew who was indisposed. They know who is indisposed amongst us. I mean, it's no secret. But those of them who are indisposed, or who were indisposed at the time, they thought we didn't know. We knew. We knew those who were on drips. We knew those who had, undergone surgery and were recovering. We knew.
So that's why you chose the day?
Well, we wanted to have this out of the way before the president came to deliver the message on the state of the nation. You remember 2 weeks ago, before the minority leader and I traveled out, one of their members had raised this issue that the president was overly delaying in the presentation of the message on the state of the nation. And I told him that there was no delay. The Constitution provides for him to do so at the beginning of a session. And the session is a series of meetings that we have within 1 year. We have 3 meetings within a session. This is the first meeting.
Yeah.
So it's the beginning of the session.
And he could have done it even on the last day before
Absolutely.
he rose.
So he didn't know what he was talking about.
But strategically, was the time you gave the president also to allow you to put your house in order, to have all this in place before he came? Because that's the state of the nation. And how beautiful and strategic would it be for him to say, I got it passed? Was it all part of the strategy all along?
We wanted to have it and get it out of the way before the president came. So we're watching the radar, and we did strike when the iron was hot.
So on the day, Minority Leader did a press conference after you passed it, and he said that there was an ambulance parked outside, and it was the chieftaincy minister.
He didn't know what was inside. It was a speculative misadventure.
But we saw the ambulance. Did
you see the person inside?
No, but he
was only speculating.
But so what was it? Normally you see an ambulance parked in front. So what was it there for?
The ambulance is always here.
Yes, parked in the place. I know where it parked, but yes.
Where are you
that
pointing?
Day?
You're pointing backward.
But that day it was parked.
Very poor geography.
I passed my geography cycle. It was parked right on the stairs to the entrance.
Yes.
That's when we saw it. Did it escort anybody in, or was there for purpose?
Which entrance is that?
I'm just asking. So
which entrance is that?
There's a stairs to the main entrance where you have the fountain in front of the.
That's to suggest to you that they didn't know what they were talking about.
Okay. So
first of all, we all know that our colleague is indisposed, and the state in which he is now, he cannot climb the stairs. So if they tell you that an ambulance was there and they thought that he was in, maybe as part of the strategy, perhaps it was a decoy. But you know the man cannot climb the stairs. So if you saw an ambulance there, you say that he's inside, and you think that he will come out and climb the stairs.
So you deployed it deliberately too as a decoy?
I don't know. I don't know. Except to tell you that the man was there.
Another thing that came up.
But he was not in the ambulance.
He was not in the ambulance.
I can assure you.
But can you tell us why the ambulance was there? Was it part of the plan?
Well, I've told you that he was not in the ambulance.
Okay.
They are saying that he was in the ambulance. He wasn't.
The speaker has said today that he saw him in the house.
Yes.
He saw
yes.
him in the house.
Yes.
Okay. So that clarifies. He didn't come in the ambulance.
He didn't come in the ambulance.
Okay. He didn't leave in the ambulance too.
He came in his own vehicle.
Okay.
I can assure you of that.
And then
go on.
You finish. I mean, there's
I'm finished.
Minority also mentions that. Again, the fact that you chose that day when Tamale Interchange was being commissioned was not a coincidence. In fact, we were told on air that you deliberately invited 7 NDC MPs to go.
Who invited?
Well, your government did. Deliberately so, knowing what was going to happen on the day.
Members of Parliament have always complained that they should be part of government programs and projects in their backyards. And it's a major thing. It's not only them. The minister himself was going to go.
But he was in the chamber.
He was going to go. He himself didn't know that we're going to do this.
Okay.
Not only him. All the MPs from the northern region. We're going to go. And I'll tell you that even one of our own colleagues was going to travel the night before because we had to keep things under wraps. So it's part of the strategy.
But you knew their members were going to go, and some of them were almost on the plane or actually left. Did you know that?
Some of our members were also almost on the flight.
But you pulled that plug, and the roads minister,
yes,
whose watch the thing was built,
yes,
happened to be in the house.
Those of them who had intended to go were stopped by them the night before.
By the minority side?
Yes.
Okay. Because they knew that this was going to
happen. Because they knew. Okay. And they had a meeting at 8:30 that morning. Who said they didn't know?
Very interesting indeed.
And it was on the other paper.
The E-levy wasn't?
Absolutely. It was on the other paper.
Oh, no, but I'm told that you brought it in. You did.
It was on the other paper.
A bird whispered to me today that you deliberately didn't share it. You brought it into the house on your feet.
When do we distribute the other paper? Before we sit, it's there.
Yeah, but you had it on your chest.
Who says?
You kept it close to your chest until the morning, just literally on your feet in the chamber.
Don't believe those who bear false witness.
That's not what happened.
That's not what happened.
Okay. That is James Abunsu. So now you know what happened. After this break, we'll go into the controversy. It has been passed. But as you know, his colleagues have gone to the Supreme Court challenging it. There are so many issues they raise, procedural issues and constitutional issues. The argument is that Chairman Sabonsu and the Speaker and his one breached the constitutional provision when they decided to go ahead and pass the E-levy without quorum. We will talk about that after the break. Thank you very much for staying with us. The majority leader is still my guest, Chairman Sabonsu. Fascinating indeed, the processes and the procedures and machinations that led to the passage of the E-levy. But let's talk about some of the substantive issues now. Mr. Chairman Sabonsu, so you know the E-levy, yes, you've passed it. You may have won the battle, but some say the war is still ahead of you because the Supreme Court may have the final say on this. Let's start with the most important issue your opponents have raised. That as at the time that you were, the final question was put for the E-levy to be passed, you did not have what the Supreme Court called in the recent judgment a voting quorum of 138 because your opponents have left the chamber and you were left at best with 137 people, and that was a clear violation of the Constitution. What's your take on that?
You now appreciate that what they did and supposedly rejecting the budget was wrong.
Well, they cite that actually.
Do they accept that?
I think
because they keep saying that the Supreme Court was wrong. Now they are running to the same Supreme Court that they have so much bastardized for redemption. But we came to the second reading. The minister had read the principles and policies underpinning the E-levy and what he intended to do after his consultations, after listening to some from within the ranks of the NDC and even from within the ranks of MPP, that the rate ought to be lowered. And also gone around and people had told him that it's not as if we don't want to pay taxes, but consider bringing down the rate. So he came and gave the signal that he was going to reduce it by 0.25 percentage point to 1.5. After he had done so, the committee submitted their report, led by the chairman. The ranking member came in with his own observations as well and raised certain critical issues. Two other contributors from their side, two other contributors from my side. The minority leader comes in and he had indicated to me that they want to listen to me and really either to stay or not to stay. They were considering whether if I finished my own intervention.
This is all on Tuesday?
All on Tuesday.
Okay.
So we are having some interactions, you know, amongst ourselves. And where they got to, they were not too sure whether to stay and participate after I had made my contribution or to walk out. So he wasn't too sure of what they wanted to do. But I knew they were going to do one of two things after my own intervention. So remember, when he was about concluding, he said, in deference to the majority leader, we will listen to him, but we will walk out.
Yes.
And that's when he said, it's going to surprise me that they will walk out. I took it in my stride. He mentioned this the second time. After listening to him, we walk out. But just when he was about to sit down, he was being nudged by his own colleagues in the front bench. And I saw that one of them was telling him that, no, let's leave. We shouldn't allow him to talk. Let's leave. I heard. I was watching their lips and watching every move of theirs, including their limb movement. So when he was about sitting down, he then made a U-turn to say that, so we on this side, we are washing our hands off and we are not part of it, we will walk out. Which is why immediately I rose, the speaker noticed me and I said, Mr. Speaker, on record, I'm forfeiting my own allotment to speak. They are here. Put the question.
Question for what?
For the motion on the second reading.
Okay.
And so the question was put. They were there. They were in the room.
So the question was put, the ayes had it.
The ayes had it.
And of course there was silence on their part because they were at the time leaving.
They were in the room. Whether they were swimming out or where they were doing whatever, they were in the room. That's what matters. Their presence, physical presence. They were there.
But that was the second reading. You had third reading.
Yes.
When they weren't there.
They claimed they went there.
But they weren't there. We also watched on television.
You watched on television.
Yes, I watched it on television.
What
the
happened?
room on their side was empty.
Did you see
After
that?
the
Did you see that occasionally some of them were coming in?
Occasionally, some of them.
Some of them were coming in occasionally, whether to pick something or some whatever. They were coming in.
I didn't see it because I was watching on television. You're saying that's what happened?
That's what happened. They were coming in individually, and some of them pretended they were searching for some things and some other things. Maybe they left some things there, but they will come and go.
Of what impact? Of what implication? What's the implication of that?
It will mean that those of them who came at that material time will be registered as having been present.
But they had to be there when the question was put. Are you saying that some of their entrance coincided with the question?
I want to believe so. I want to believe so. In any event, but they are taking the matter to the Supreme Court. Let's not adjudicate the matter here. Let them go and make their case. They are saying that we didn't have the requisite numbers. The burden is on them. Let them go to the court to prove.
Okay, I mean, the case is
Let
yet
them
to be heard.
To the court.
It's yet to be heard, except that
Let
the
them
numbers
go to
are
the court
numbers.
and prove. What numbers are numbers?
Without their 137, you only had 1372.
Without their 137. Who says they had 137?
Well, I'm saying that on the
Who says
day.
they had 137 on the day?
Well, even if they had 136
or less.
or less.
Yes.
All of
Which
them
was a reality.
Well, all of them were
Yes.
not in the chamber. That leaves your 137.
It doesn't.
And that is not half, according to the Supreme Court.
Evans, may I ask you, if you listen to the minority leader today, he said yes, they knew that they had 136. Right?
Yes.
Assuming that is true, why is it that they are stressing? They are not stressing on 137 or 136. Because they know that technically their Sin North person has been ousted by the courts. They know.
But that seat hasn't been declared vacant.
It doesn't have to be.
No, but it has to be. The Constitution is clear.
Yes.
The process for declaring vacancy is there in the Constitution.
Listen. What's the process of declaring vacancy?
The Speaker has to formally inform the Electoral Commission.
Is that the case? That is not the case.
What's the case?
That's not the case. Look, I have the Constitution here. That is not the case. The Constitution provides in Article, what is it? 97, I should think. A member of Parliament shall vacate his seat in Parliament if any circumstances, if any circumstances arise such that if he were not a member of Parliament would cause him to be disqualified or ineligible for election under Article 94 of this Constitution. There's that automaticity. You shall vacate your seat. Who says that it must necessarily come from the mouth of somebody?
So you're saying that
so if the person decides not to make the pronouncement, that person will be there? No.
You're saying that once the court declares, automatically his seat is vacant?
In my understanding, a member of Parliament shall vacate his seat.
Yeah, but that clause isn't the same.
Shall vacate his seat.
Not disputing that, but that same provision spells out a series of circumstances.
No. Please read. What clause? That's what.
It spells out the series of circumstances.
97.1 says, a member of Parliament shall vacate his seat in Parliament, 1, upon a dissolution of Parliament.
Yes.
What do you need? Immediately the Parliament is dissolved, you vacate your seat.
True.
There's that automaticity.
It also includes when you absent yourself.
If he is elected as Speaker of Parliament, there's that automaticity. What processes are required? Thank you.
So your point is that James Achikwesing, as it stands now, is not a member of Parliament?
That's my understanding of the law. That is why they themselves are saying that their number now is 136. And if it's 136, if it's out,
you use the word if.
And I know that he is. The number now climbs down from 275 to 274.
Which means half is
137. So they are saying that they are admitting that we were 137. It means that we can take a decision with 137, assuming what they are saying is the right thing, that all of them had emptied the house.
But you say this about James Achikwesing's seat with authority. He's been in the house recently. He's been in the house participating in the business.
I don't want to go into that.
No, but that is fundamental.
In the fullness of time, the law will take its course. I don't want to further go on that path. Let's leave that to the law to take its course.
But the law says there must be the people of Asin North need representation in the House.
Yes.
You're saying that as we speak now, the people of Asin North don't have a representation in the House. That's not what the Constitution definitely intended.
Is that the case? You just mentioned to me that if a person absents himself for 15 sitting
yes, without permission.
Yes. The constituents wouldn't have, if such a matter arises, the constituents wouldn't have representation. We are not alluding to that.
Same applies in this case.
Same applies.
But so let's take what you're saying to be true on face value. why hasn't Parliament then done the other thing, which is doing a formal communication for the Electoral Commission then to begin the process of making sure the people of Asin North are represented?
Let the law take its own course. I know in the fullness of time this will happen.
So that's how you ground your faith that you did the right thing on the day.
I'm saying that the fact that the minority themselves are saying that they recognize that their number is 136. Why are they saying that their number is 136?
They actually put it on the fact that on the day he had to attend to court.
Oh, they said their number
was 136 that day because the Achikwesing had to attend to court.
136. For me, the courts have made their pronouncements. And check the courts. There's no injunction, there's no stay of execution filed by.
They haven't filed the stay of execution, yes.
If judgment has been given, you haven't filed, you want to further litigate, and there's no stay of execution. What does it mean?
The argument is that the president is a very astute, renowned lawyer. He should know that once the process has been filed, he should stay his hand. Even with an actual statement.
Is the president who is the electoral commissioner? In this case, Is the president the electoral commissioner?
But the president is the man who finally signed for it to become law. They say the president shouldn't because the case has been filed at the Supreme Court.
Oh, you have jumped to another place. I thought you were talking about the honorable member. I mean, you have jumped to E-levy.
Yes, that's the E-levy argument. But as for Jachikwe, you've made the point that as far as you're concerned, his seat is already vacated because the High Court has pronounced.
There are two issues here. Whether they had left the house, whether they, the processes of maybe injuncting a parliament sitting, duly constituted and doing business, if no issue is raised about a quorum, whether the parliament can go on and transact business.
Yeah.
That's another matter.
If they had stayed and raised a quorum question, of course, I mean, you would have argued that they were in the house, and so they were participating. And you knew that day that you had more numbers than they did. And so you knew that if it came down to a vote, you're going to win that day. The best option was what they did, was to leave.
The best option.
And to leave the Supreme Court to make the final decision.
Leave them to litigate their matter in the Supreme Court then.
But you're not concerned that the Supreme Court might undo what you've done?
What they are perceiving, they themselves know that it's an exercise in futility.
Why do you say that?
Yesterday, I saw the Honorable Ayariga with you.
Yes.
And before that, he had been with me where we had talked about this matter. The details I would not want to talk about. He and I had serious discussions about this. And he knew what I told him. And I know that he was convinced by what I said, which I will not say now, because it should be part of our arsenal at the Supreme Court. And so he turned away, said, hey. And then he even was blaming they themselves. That look, he had come with one other member, the Honorable Amabua. I said, look, the majority leader is right. What we did that day by engaging in this division and indicating to the whole world that we were 137, there was 0 voting for, and abstention 0, we made a mistake. He himself acknowledged. And he's gone to the Supreme Court. I'm assuring you, whatever exercise, maybe they want to satisfy their base. Otherwise, it's going to be an exercise in futility.
Today, in Parliament, it had been alleged that you are possibly conspiring with the clerk's office to manipulate the attendance. And there was a very heated argument on the floor of Parliament about this. Muntaka Mubarak was very livid, yes, accusing the clerk's office. What do you know about this?
I don't know anything about that.
But you've heard his concerns on the floor.
I've heard. But you see, people want to just make, noise about nothingness. Yesterday was Tuesday. Was Wednesday. If you look at the votes and proceedings, right, every day you will see, when we come to correcting votes and proceedings, that it will contain a number of names that people would say that, well, we were in the chamber, but we have been marked absent. On that day, look at the votes and proceedings, the Tuesday, you will see that as many as about 10 members had raised issues about they having been marked as absent when indeed they were in the chamber. Right? Now the Tuesday's issue will reflect in Wednesday, which was yesterday. So was it deliberate when we have so many names on Tuesday, members correcting the votes and proceedings to indicate that they were in the chamber or have been marked as absent? I'm not too sure that anybody can do that, because this is a routine thing. Because you see, we have not agreed on how effectively to capture those of them who come to the chamber and those of them who are absent. Today, the speaker was relating to a ruling that Right Honorable Peter Alajete gave some time back, when members were indicating that they had been in Parliament on account of the fact that they had gone to the mails room to sign the attendance register without showing in the chamber. And then Peter Alajete said, no, that cannot be right. You must be in the chamber to be recognized. And if you go and sign and disappear, you cannot say that you have participated in the proceedings of Parliament. And the Speaker himself said that taking a leave from the ruling of Right Honorable Peter Alajete, he has decided never to append his signature to the attendance register. So that is it. And so I don't see anything untoward.
But you see why it's become an issue now, because they expect that it's going to become evidence in the Supreme Court case.
I'm saying, go and look at the Tuesday's own. So many people rose to indicate that they were there, but they were marked absent. Did anybody raise issue about any deliberateness on the part of the clerk?
I'm just saying, you understand why now it's become an issue, because obviously
the point also is why would they go so hard against the clerk? Because the votes and proceedings of any day, the persons who authenticate the content, two people, the clerk to Parliament and the Speaker. The Speaker bears ultimate responsibility. Why were they castigating only the clerk and not the Speaker? If it is deliberate, rope in the Speaker. But they wouldn't want to touch the Speaker. Why?
Why?
He bears ultimate responsibility. So if it is deliberate, then the Speaker must be involved. And I don't think the Speaker would do that. So why would you attack the clerk? For practical reasons, I will tell you that it's the clerks at table who are responsible for this.
Because they do the recording?
They do the recording. If there are any lapses, I will tell you that because of the circumstances of the time, and these things are done very late in the night. And so maybe the clerk himself will not even see it. And I will tell you that the Speaker usually will not even see it, even though his name will be there.
Yeah.
So to just hold one person by the scruff of the neck and hold his feet to fire that he is responsible, leaving out the Speaker, that really is most unfortunate. And I don't think any one of them would deliberately do that. But is it the case that all of them who were listed were present in the chamber? I'm not too sure. Because when we go into it, I know somebody who has been marked as present who was not in the chamber.
You know this for sure?
I know it for sure. It was not deliberate on his part. A person was sick. He was receiving drips.
On the part of the minority?
On the part of the minority.
Which means that there will actually be less than 136.
So you see, but as far as I'm concerned, it's not material.
Because you passed your E-levy?
No, to the debate. Because whether or not they were 137 and left, or 135 or 130, it doesn't affect the outcome.
Yeah, I thought so. I'm going to take a quick break. When I return, I'll wrap up with Osei Sabun. So I'd like his thoughts on a very interesting line in the Constitution that will come up for some interpretation of the Supreme Court, or Article 104(1) that talks about the quorum, the voting quorum. It says at least half must be present. How does he define present? The minority say present means, well, if you are not in the chamber, and so once they left the chamber, they're not present. But I've heard constitutional experts say that present might be one of the most controversial issues for the Supreme Court to decide. That if the votes and proceedings records 266, and I checked this, of people who were present, that's what the Supreme Court possibly will work with, and not because they actually were in the house, and they showed up, participated, and only left at a point. I'll ask him what his own thoughts are on that particular clause very shortly. And then, now E-levy has passed, what next? What next for him in terms of the government business in the House? And as we say, those on his own side who are also refusing to come to the floor, has he managed to rein all of them in yet? Stay with me here on PM Express. Thank you very much for staying with us. My guest is still the Majority Leader and Minister for Parliamentary Affairs. He's had a lot on his plate in the last 5 months, but I guess his biggest hurdle has been cleared. But, as you know, part of it is in court. There's a controversial part of this whole court issue that I need to put to him. It's about a constitutional provision which has formed the basis of a lot of contestation recently. 104, I believe, that says, Mr. Chairman Sabonsu, that in forming a voting quorum.
Read it, 104.
104.1, I was going to paraphrase, but it says I should read. In fact, I must point out to you that this is Chairman Sabonsu's constitution. The clause the line I was going to read to him, he's actually underlined it. So which means that he long before I came to ask him the question, knew this is going to be a tricky one. So let me read it. It says, except as otherwise provided in this constitution, matters in Parliament shall be determined by votes of the majority of members present and voting. Now this is a part he has underlined. And this looks like something he underlined way back. With at least half of all the members of Parliament present. At least half of all members of Parliament present. How do you interpret this? At least half is, some say, very obvious because it's just calculation. But the word present, what is present? Be in the chamber or as using the votes and proceedings that records those who are present. Because if you look on the votes and proceedings of that day, it records 266 people present. Is that what you're using, or what was the number on the floor?
Evans, what do you expect me to do? This matter is before the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
You want us to litigate it here?
We are educating our audiences. This has become a subject. This is the same one that was decided by the Supreme Court. That same clause.
Absolutely.
But now, that line, you underlined that line for a reason.
They will be consistent.
You underlined that line.
They will be consistent.
The Supreme Court will be consistent.
They will be consistent.
If they are consistent, then you possibly will lose the E-levy approval.
How?
Consistent means the Supreme Court will stand by their decision, which means you need half. Which means you need at least half. Half is one.
Half of what is what?
Half of 275.
That's the number at that material moment. Is that the number of the members of Parliament?
But you've underlined. I just ask, what's your interpretation of that present? What's present for you?
I will not proffer my own opinion on that.
You've been in Parliament, because I understand that the speakers in the past have actually ruled on this matter. What has been the ruling? What has been the precedent in the House on this?
The House, the number of persons present is captured in the votes and proceedings, which is a true record of business conducted in the House. So that record is what is going to be shown to the Supreme Court.
That is 266 people on Tuesday.
Let's not litigate the matter. If you are going to battle, you don't expose all your arsenals.
Okay. So you know that's going to be an issue. If Chairman Sabonsu doesn't want to go there, you know that's going to be an issue certainly. But
I don't see that. It's of no moment.
So E-levy has been passed. What next? You've won the battle.
Implementation.
Well, implementation definitely is. Let the finance minister says possibly beginning of May.
That is so.
Okay. So that's your expectation.
Yes. When we're going to pass it in December, I mean, you can't operationalize it overnight. You need to put systems in place and then try the systems, test run the systems to see that they are foolproof before you roll them out. And that is not a 24-hour matter. So in attempting to pass it in December, we knew that January was going to be lost, and that indeed and in truth, the earliest time that we were going to be operationalized was going to be February, beginning February, which is what he has said. So we need to put the systems in place and then activate it and have it roll. And so we need that 1 month period. If we're to fast track it, maybe 2 weeks into April, but realistically, May
is more realistic. I can't end without asking you, everything I've heard you today, have you given up now on Adjo Asafo? Because it seems you are working with 137 now on your side.
Well, she requested from the Speaker to be given 4 more weeks to be absent. The 4 weeks, I guess, is ending Friday.
Was that approved? Was that granted?
It wasn't granted. The Speaker told me that he had not granted that. Because you need to be here to make the requests. But this was submitted from our side. And even the first one that saw her out, she didn't make any request from the speaker. So the speaker said, you're only going to accommodate that. My own information was that even last Tuesday, the speaker was going to make a pronouncement on it in the House. I think the circumstances prevented him from so doing. I want to believe that perhaps before the House adjourns tomorrow, or maybe next week when the House sets, the speaker may make the announcement by referring her conduct to the Privileges Committee before we adjourn, because that's the information that the speaker gave to me. And so I thought he was going to do that. And by whatever circumstances that evolved, he elected not to do that. So I want to see what the speaker does in the coming days.
But for certain, that's what you expect to happen now? Referral to the privileges for consideration? I'm relating to what the speaker told you. As to whether it's going to roll out. As a majority leader yourself, what do you want? What do you expect? You are her majority leader.
Well, it's been a long drawn matter. We've been having conversations, and I think there's something that is happening. There's something that is happening, and I don't want to go into it. Unfortunate as the situation is, but certainly a decision will have to be taken. One way or the other. One way or the other. The Constitution is clear what decision can be taken on this. Absolutely, absolutely. Privileges. That's what I'm asking, whether it is your preference too, as a majority leader, that apply the constitutional provision. Well, really, one would say that push in this case has come to shove. And where push comes to shove, some decision, some determination has to be made. And so I agree with the speaker. If that determination has been made, that referral has been made, it has to be made. I mean, you still have 2 years, 2.5 years to go. Can you do with all this challenge that has proven? In fact, it has to be said, without her, the E-levy had struggled a bit. You have to admit that. If you had her on your side on the House, you probably would have done this long before on Tuesday. You agree? We have been limping. Yeah. I must admit. If she were here, this hurdle would have been cleared long, long ago. Unfortunately. She's not here. We've been having conversations about her coming back, and she promised and, renege on many occasions. But I think all is not right. All is not right. How to go forward with it is the bigger burden. Yeah. Does she need help? Based on what you know, you worked with her, she was your deputy. Does she need help? I mean, because from outside, a lot of speculation. Does she genuinely need help? I wouldn't want to comment on that. Except to say that things are not normal. Okay. With her? Things are not normal. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. So, the man who maneuvered, and possibly one of the most interesting maneuverings you probably find in parliamentary history in the Fourth Republic. But as they say, he's won the battle. Can he win the war? I guess the Supreme Court will have the final say on that. Thank you very much, Mr. James Abosu, again. Thank you for having me. It's been quite interesting. Enjoy the rest of dealing with you. Always. As always. Yes. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.